Hello, this is wmpyr, here to answer another one of your questions. And this one I got was pretty much like, what do I think of Kalari Payatu, which is the martial arts from India? They use a ton of weapons, a ton of different weapons in that martial arts style. Uh, and let me tell you guys, I remember hearing about Kalari. I don't know where I heard about it first, but I remember hearing about it in from my teacher, my first martial arts instructor here in the U.S., which was in the early 90s. I was in junior high school at the time, training in martial arts, joined the studio, and the instructor was a very old school, harsh individual. Not the nicest person you'll ever meet. Very strict, very scary. Um, but the one thing that I admired about this guy was that he was very, very knowledgeable about other styles. Yes, he had his own specific style that he focused on, but that didn't stop him about knowing about, you know, kickboxing, wrestling, Wing Chun, Korean styles. I mean, just whatever, you know. So very, very intelligent, knowledgeable gentleman. Um, and he had these fascinating photos of these Kalari guys, and they were brothers from India. So he, if I'm not mistaken, my instructor traveled to India because he was interested in martial arts, wanted to, you know, go to the birthplace of martial arts essentially and talk to these guys. And I think he wanted to train with them and learn from them as much as possible. My impression from hearing his stories were that they were pretty secretive. So I don't know how much was divulged. They did mention to him something about being able to kill a person via pressure points and then also bring them back to life. And you know, of course, back then I was like, what? And even now, you know, at this, been doing martial arts nonstop ever since. And yeah, I'm still like, what? When I hear stuff like that, you know. Uh, so anyway, the photos were amazing photos. These brothers were like, you know, they had shields, they had swords, they had all kinds of weapons, and it was like dynamic poses where they're like flying in the air, doing crazy acrobatic looking stuff where, you know, the legs were folded back this way, almost looked like they were about to touch their head. I mean, just I don't know how they took those photos, but crazy looking photos, really. So he said, yeah, these guys, these brothers were experts in Kalari, and so I remember that. I also, in a Japanese manga, a lot of the Japanese manga writers, artists, they do a ton of research. And one of them was a martial arts manga that I really, really liked. And in it, one of the dudes the main character had to fight was a guy who did Kalari from India. And you know, they talked about the characteristics of Kalari and what you have to be careful with that style and things of that nature. Which, you know, how much of that is accurate? Looking back on it now, it didn't seem all that accurate because you know, it's not like today where you can look it up on YouTube and see. It was probably the author looked it up on a book or something, and that was about it. It's not like in Japan. I don't even know if there was a Kalari school at the time. I'm pretty sure if there was, he didn't know about it, didn't have access to it. So it was something along those lines where it was very mysterious. But it was mentioned in that manga, gave a little bit, tiny bit of info. Once again, how accurate it was, a little dodgy, sketchy, but that's another place where I heard about Kalari. Um, and then the other place was here in the U.S. Around that time in junior high school. Street Fighter 2, the video game, just exploded onto the scene. And in it, uh, there's a character from India, Dalsim, And if you look at, I don't know if it was GamePro magazine or EGM, I thought it was one of those magazines, video game magazines, where they said, you know, they're talking about the different characters and their moves and stuff, and they brought him up and they said fighting style, because each one of those characters had a different fighting style, and that's what made Street Fighter so cool to see that. And his style, it said Kalari. Later on, I think it started to say Kalari / yoga, and then it just pretty much got replaced by just yoga. And I was very disappointed in that. Why doesn't it say Kalari? But there was at least one issue that I remember where it said Kalari, and I was like, there you go, that's right. I was like, yoga is not really a martial art per se. Anything can be practiced as a martial art, but you know, yoga is not known as a martial art fighting style, fighting system per se, right? So, yeah, to see just his style labeled as yoga, for me, was disappointing. The Kalari was like, yes, that's it, that's right, you know. Anyway, what do I think about it? Well, just the reason why I like the video games Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, is you have these different characters that do different styles. To me, that is fascinating. That is, and I like watching like the early UFCs and stuff where you had different style people come in and fight. I like the movie Bloodsport with Van Damme, where it was a whole bunch of different styles. Like the dude that did the monkey fighting, you had a Muay Thai fighter, you had Van Damme was like basically like a ninjutsu guy. You know, you had all these different styles competing, and it's interesting to watch them do their thing. And it wasn't about which style is better or anything like that for me. It was just, it's fascinating to watch it. To me, I understood early on just the fact that they're all there. They're all, you know, tough, extremely tough. They're badasses in each in their own way. So maybe the monkey fighter guy didn't win, but hey, he was pretty awesome in his own way, and he gave the sumo wrestler a good match until, of course, his back got broken. But anyway, I like seeing the varieties. I like the different styles. So what do I think about Kalari? I like it. I like, it's another different style. So I like the different styles. I wish it was a style that I ran into and it was available to me, but when I was really searching out and training martial arts styles, it wasn't one of the styles that I ran into. It just wasn't. On the other hand, Filipino martial arts wasn't something I was looking for, but it pretty much like it fell into my lap, should I say. So to me, that was like its destiny, you know. But unfortunately, Kalari wasn't one of those. I am fascinated by it. The Urumi weapon, which is, it could be worn kind of like as a belt wrapped around you, but it is a bendy, flexible sword, usually with three, extremely difficult to wield, manipulate is what they say. But you use it against, it's supposed to be effective against multiple opponents is what you know, is the way it was described as. You know, just things like that is so cool. The way that they train with all these different weapons as they do that. Of course, each weapon has its own characteristic, but as they do that, you can't help but think that they are developing body mechanics, that no matter what weapon they go to, even though they're training in, you know, sword, shield, spear, they're changing, it's still helping their body mechanics. And then when they go to empty hand, you know, it probably all comes together in a certain way. And the crazy stances that they have, like some of them are very low to the ground, and I don't know if it's called a cobra, they fight like a cobra, fight like a tiger or whatever. As they do that, you know, it's kind of like if I had to fight against somebody and the person is very short and stocky, and then after I defeat that person, the next person I have to fight is a very tall and lengthy person. You know, so when you're fighting with different people like that, you have to adjust. So one person who has cobra style, tiger style, or whatever. It's almost like I have to adapt within that fight, to it's almost like they're morphing their body, and so now he's fighting explosively. Now he's fighting more slick with strategy. Now he's fighting with just rushing in and very aggressive. So it's almost like fighting different people, but it's one person. So I can see how that could throw people off and whatnot. So it's very clever, very, very fascinating, I think. And, to me, if you have an open mind, you could benefit from any style. It doesn't look, if you're a kickboxer or you're an MMA fighter and you feel that's very, very effective, that's fine. Do that. But when you see something like sumo wrestling or Kalari or something crazy like pressure point fighting or I don't know what, right? You see that, you don't have to immediately go, oh, that stuff doesn't work. I would destroy it. Why do you got to be a jerk like that? I would look at it and go, how can I benefit from it? So that's the way I see it. What are they doing that's good? What are they doing that maybe is not good? I would look at it more that way, and then just try to, once again, if you have an open mind, you can benefit from anything. So that's kind of the viewpoint that I have. So, all right, that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.